I'm still annoyed about this as I speak about it a few days later. This is how bad it was. Hello, everyone. This is Kerwin, and welcome to another episode of Travel Talk. And in today's episode, I've got a bone to pick with Spirit. We're going to talk about cancellations. Let's go. So, behind me here is actually not the pitch I wanted, but it's a Spirit Airlines in Las Vegas, and the issue I had it was in Boston. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Spirit Airlines. Um, as you know, I love to fly different airlines, and I flew Spirit last December. Actually, had a good experience with them, and haven't done the trip review yet, but I was from Houston to Fort Lauderdale. Everything worked well, and one of the things with the airline industry is that when things go well, flight's really good. When things do not go well, in case of a cancellation or a delay, they just don't know how to, I shouldn't say they just don't know, because they do, but they want to minimize the expense that it takes to handle the thing, which makes sense. But that expense, the minimization of expense on their end, means that we're going to have a hard time as a consumer. Case in point, I booked a Spirit flight from Boston to Houston. Reason why I chose this flight was, one, I wanted to do another experience in Spirit, to see how they were. If the first experience was a fluke. And also it was convenient. I was arriving at 6 o'clock from Iceland. There weren't any other connecting flights to get to my destination that night. I didn't want to do a hotel, and because I would have done a hotel and then fly out the next morning. So Spirit had a flight at 10:14, and then I decided, perfect. So got all the normal messages, told to check in. I checked in, got the upgrades because I was trying to upsell you to getting an exit row seat or getting a big boy seat. And the first time I flew them, I did the upgrade for the big boy seat. I think I paid, I don't know, $20, something like that. And so I wanted to try to sit in their regular seats to see how it is. Never gonna happen. But here's what happened. So at about 4 in the morning, they sent me an email that said, hey, while we understand that changes to travel plans are not ideal, we need to notify you of the following changes to your flight. The departure time has been updated, the arrival time has been updated. Things change quickly, so please keep an eye out for additional updates. Fine. Reminder, being at the airport at least 2 hours prior to domestic departures is ideal. So it says Boston, it was 10:14, it's now 10:54. It was going to arrive at 1:28, it's now going to arrive at 2:08. Yeah, not too bad. I had a car rental picking up, so I can just adjust it, not a problem. So then I get another email, and that email came in at 11:28 a.m. And that one said, hey, Spirit guests, while we understand changes to travel plans are not ideal, we need to notify you of the following change to your flight. This flight has been canceled. Things change quickly, so please keep an eye out for additional updates. And it showed canceled. We apologize for the inconvenience. Thank you for your patience while we work on your rebooking options. You will receive another email with additional instructions. So I saw this when I landed because I was connecting in. Okay, so I looked at the email, and this was about 6 o'clock now, local time. And by now, I hadn't gotten any email or any indication of being rebooked. With Spirit, you can call. When I clicked on the link that it said, oh, okay, flight's been canceled, go online. So I went online, and it wouldn't allow me to do any rebooking options. There was just nothing. And then I had to really search to find out if the flight was really canceled in the systems. So then it said I could do WhatsApp or I could call. So I was on a plane, so I started doing WhatsApp while I was on the plane. And I kind of had to stop because there's somebody looking over my shoulder and people are very nosy on airplanes, so I stopped. But once I, had some privacy, I was able to start the WhatsApp conversation. So the WhatsApp conversation said, they were gonna get in touch with me within 5 minutes. Because I asked you a whole bunch of questions. And first it said it can't find my reservation. And it tried like about 3 times. And then it gave up and it said, hey, okay, I need to provide the email address associated with the reservation, which I did. Um, but it just couldn't find me. So now it says, thanks 1 minute while we look up your booking. We could not locate your booking with the information you provided. The information is the same as my last name and my confirmation number, which I checked and double checked and triple checked and is correct. You've been placed in line to chat with a representative. Your expected wait time is 5 minutes. This was at 4:57. At 5:40 is when they responded. Hello, thank you for contacting Spirit. My name is so-and-so, and I'm here to assist you with your rebooking request. I'm sorry to hear that your flight was affected. Now, they're very careful with using the word canceled. The only time they use the word canceled is when the first time when they said, hey, the flight is canceled. But it's like your flight is disrupted, your flight was affected, all these kind of words, and they know it was canceled. So while I was waiting for this guy, I stood online at the airport. Actually, I was also on the phone because I was walking from one terminal to the next. I got on the phone while I was waiting on WhatsApp, and I called and I got a person. The guy I got, he said that he couldn't do anything. He had to transfer me to a supervisor. I waited almost 45 minutes for a supervisor who never came, and then the phone hung up, and I lost the call. I called back. I got another person who was actually, while all this wait was going on, I stood online at the airport and I went up to this lady who I used to work in customer service. I faced customers every day, and this lady is the worst person that I've ever encountered. And I fly a lot. I stay in a lot of hotels. Um, and I've been flying for a long time, traveling for a long time, and this person is perhaps the worst person I've met. She was cold. Um, she had no sense of anything about her. She slouched over her computer. She looked at me in disdain as if it's my fault that the flight is canceled. And I'm not saying this lightly. And I spoke with her and very politely, and I said, I would like to, I said, so what are my options? So then she starts to tell me that I can get you home by Friday morning. And she was very skillful in her deception because she goes, oh yeah, the flight leaves tomorrow morning at like 6 a.m. Then it gets into Fort Lauderdale at, I don't know, what time, whatever time she said. Then you go to Orlando and then you connect and you get to Houston. And I said, so you mean I get to Houston Friday morning? She's like, yes. I said, so all these overnight connections, including tonight, are you going to put me in a hotel? She said, no. She said the reason was weather. Now, they were having weather issues in Boston. However, I don't think this was weather because the flight was initially delayed, so they were already having issues with that flight because it was delayed. And then they canceled it like, what was it, 7 hours after that. And then they never rebooked me. They never gave me any options for rebooking. And they had other flights going to other places. So it wasn't like the airport was completely shut and they couldn't get any flights in. They had other flights going to the other places. So then I came up with an option and I called back because this lady, she was not going anywhere and I was not going to argue with her. And I left by saying, I said, I gave you guys another chance and you failed. but she had no compassion, no, let me try to get, she goes, oh, the computer's this, the computer's saying that, the computer's doing that. These are my options. I said, well, but those options don't work. And then she started off by saying, I can give you a refund or Spirit credit. I said, and how is that going to help me tonight? How is that going to get me home? Um, but that didn't move her. She was just the coldest person. The problem too with that particular station, they were black. And when you put color psychology is really interesting. Their background is yellow and she is wearing black and she's standing against that. And the combination of the two colors, it's like, what's the name of that show now? The show with the monsters. It's like I walked into Lily Bumster's house or something. It was so depressing. It was so cold. It was just, and her emotions added to the whole ambiance of it. Wasn't really a terrible ambiance. And so you felt like your world was closing in just because of the decor plus her attitude. So I got on the phone, and meanwhile, I met this lady who she was on my flight coming over from Iceland, and it was her and her son, and she was having issues with her son. And all the little boy kept saying, "Mama, I'm hungry. Mama, I'm hungry." And then I met another lady. It was her husband, and two children. And they had given up. They were just going to go get another hotel. And the thing had a flight to Fort Lauderdale the next morning or something like that. But zero compassion, zero. And it's not like we're begging anything. It really got interesting when I said to them, I said, you have a flight that goes from here to Detroit. I can get a flight from Detroit to Houston the next morning. Can you put that together for me? She said, no. It was on the phone. She said, if you do that, we're going to charge you for it. I said, but you canceled the flight. It is not my fault. You canceled my flight. And now you're telling me you're going to charge me to put me on two of your flights. And I'm not even asking you to give me a hotel in Detroit. I'm just asking you to put the two flights together. And then they started to say, we don't have any flights available. And I was like, oh, this is really painful. So then I what I didn't understand is why is it that I can't change I can't do my to Detroit and then from Detroit to Houston. And uh she just said no, I can't do that. Um the bad thing was that was the only solution that would have worked, and they were not willing to do that. And of course, again, she came back and she said, we're just not we get your flight, your sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thought for you because it was so frustrating. So then she said, well, because your flight is canceled, you're entitled to a full refund or a credit. And I said, don't cancel it, don't rebook, don't do anything, just leave it. And then I'll decide what I'm going to do. So because by now it was close to like 8:30, almost 9 o'clock, and I've been trying to get rebooked or something since 6 o'clock. And by now, there were two Fort Lauderdale flights that were now canceled and weren't going anyplace. And so the problem is that my real issue here is I could have flown another airline because Southwest had a flight. But when you ask them if you could rebook you in another airline, they said no. And so they won't rebook in another airline. They don't have enough flights that will get you where you want to go for 2 days. They won't rebook you as specified, i.e., I want to go through Detroit because you have a flight to Detroit, and then I will want to go from Detroit to Houston on a connecting flight, and I'm not even asking you for a hotel. I just want you to get me there. I'll figure the hotel thing out. So then after all that frustration, I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I flew across the Atlantic. I've been up very early, 8 o'clock local time, which with 8 o'clock, so that's 7 hours. That would have been like 1 a.m. until 2 a.m. I guess because it was East Coast time. And so I was like, I'm not having any of this. And so because I gave up, there was nothing that they could do or were willing to do. And so what I did, I checked hotel options, which are quite expensive at the time, and I found a hotel that worked. And because everything at the airport was fully booked, every hotel, and so I had to go downtown, and downtown prices were not exactly, cheap or quote unquote affordable. So then I found a hotel, and at the same time, I booked a ticket on American. And they had nothing available until like 6 o'clock in the evening. And so I booked a 6 p.m. flight, getting into Houston at about 11 o'clock, connecting in Dallas. And jumped on the SL1, the silver line is what they call it. Got downtown and I walked to the hotel from there's about a 15-minute walk. By the time I got to the hotel, it was like 11 p.m. By the time all that was done. So it was quite the frustrating night. And now I'm gonna put in a claim with my travel insurance and see what's covered. I have an annual plan for travel insurance, and actually it's expiring in a few days. So I need to renew my plan. But it was frustrating for no reason. It was frustrating because the people who were supposed to help you were not helping you. And it's not a free ticket. I paid for the ticket at whatever price you asked me to. And now you have an issue and you're not taking care of me. Unacceptable. So I'm going to put a note into the DOT, or to the Department of Transportation, and see if they can help me, because I know Spirit is just not going to help me when I contact them, because based on the WhatsApp, the in-person conversation, and on the phone, they're not gonna help me. All they're gonna tell me is the same thing that they've told me before. And so then the next day, I got up early, standby for an earlier flight on American. Got to the airport. That flight was actually delayed. It was delayed because the flight before, the night before, had diverted, and they're having trouble getting out of Hartford. So they're going to Hartford back to Dallas, and then Dallas off. I can't remember if anyone came off at that flight. I can't remember. But they did get a new crew, and then they went they're pretty much their merry way. Um, Once I got to Dallas, I was able to well, American had a cancellation between Dallas and Houston. And so I couldn't get on that flight, but I got on another flight, so it was fine. And that flight was also full. So all in all, this is very frustrating. I don't even know what to tell you except do not fly Spirit. I'm not one to tell someone not to fly an airline. I've flown about 196 airlines now. Probably 197. I have to make sure I do the count properly. And this was frustrating because what you find is one experience doesn't dictate the airline, right? Not even two or three experiences, but when you had the experience I had tells me that the airline really doesn't care about people and they're not flexible. You made a mistake, you canceled my flight, but you don't want to help me. And your employees are just like that lady was so cold. Um, I can't even tell you how cold she was. And explain that to you. And like I said, there were other people in my similar situation and they had children. I was just by myself. So but it's when the little boy told me he was hungry and his mom, she wanted to go get him some food, but she had to take care of the flight situation. And so when you see a lot of these videos, quote unquote viral videos of situations, not everybody is calm. And so people do get bent out of shape. And unfortunately do stupid things they end up regretting, not condoning whatever they do, because you don't need to do that. Walk away. I was mad at the lady, but I walked away because I recognized that she wasn't going to change anything, and my getting upset is just going to inflame the situation. So my recourse is to do this video, write my letter to the DOT, and complain to Spirit and see where it goes from there. And I had travel insurance. I'm going to do my travel insurance claim and see what happens. I hope your experience wasn't as horrible as mine when you fly Spirit, but I'm not going to be flying that airline again. I'm sorry. And if you work for Spirit, um, we all have to earn our money in some way. But I'm not doing it again because you Spirit Airlines made me feel like I was not a customer. And the employee that you had at that particular airport had zero compassion. And they weren't willing to help me. They were just not. Yeah, and I can't deal with that. Sorry. So anyway, this is Kerwin with passfather.com, cruisenaut2.com. And another episode of Travel Talk. Have a good trip. I'm still annoyed about this as I speak about it a few days later. This is how bad it was. But anyway, talk to you soon.